Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name's Bob, I'll be your host. And it's October, and this year for October I decided to go all out vampire and talk about different vampire games and stuff like that. In this video, I'm going to talk about some ideas for stories and settings you can use in your different vampire games. And one of the things that people do when they start a vampire game is they like to put their vampire games into larger cities. Stuff like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. And there's a lot you can do in the larger cities because there's a lot larger vampire community. So you have a lot of other interactions with vampires of different power levels and so forth, and different types. But something that's usually often overlooked is putting your game in a much smaller environment, such as maybe putting it in your hometown or a smaller city altogether. And there are some really good benefits to doing that that you won't get in a vampire game based in a larger city. And one of the benefits that you can use to your advantage in this game is kind of like an isolationist bit, in which the vampire player characters pretty much make up the bulk of the vampire community. There are other vampires around, but mostly it's the player characters. Now, this might sound a little boring, but what happens when another vampire comes in and starts causing trouble and thinking that he's going to get away with it because there's no set prince or laws or what have you? And the player characters are going to have to deal with this because it will eventually shine lights on them. And so it's a big danger to them. So you could go that route. Another thing you could do is you could have a group of hunters come in to set up their base of operations, thinking that since it's a smaller place, there's not going to be very many prying eyes. But what happens if they get word that the player characters are there? Are the player characters going to let that happen? Or are they going to try to oust these guys before they get set in? There's different takes you can do with it. Another good thing with a smaller environment is, there's a lot of them have a lot of woodland around them. And this gives you the chance to bring in werewolves. Are they going to be antagonists? Are they going to be allies? Are you just going to live together separately? How is that going to work out for you? Now, yes, you can put your werewolves in the larger cities, but in the smaller communities, it is much more likely that you're going to run into them. So, there's ideas there. There's stuff you can do in the smaller environments. A campaign setting that I've had in mind, if I ever get back into the old World of Darkness, is I'm going to base the game in my old hometown of Columbus, Indiana. Now, Columbus, Indiana is kind of a smaller city, and it's actually grown up a lot since I lived there. And it actually is ranked pretty high as far as architecture goes worldwide. Unfortunately, it's all modern architecture, so it looks weird. But anyway, if you base it in the 5th edition of Vampire the Masquerade, the elders have gone off, and so you've left power vacuums in the leadership structure. Well, in this campaign setting, the prince stationed there in Columbus has pretty much picked up and left one night, leaving the Camarilla without leadership there in Columbus. Well, the Anarchs pretty much stepped up and took over Columbus in this setting and have declared it an Anarch city. Well, the Camarilla are still trying to put things together and place a new prince and take back Columbus without actually firing off a war. So that's pretty much my setting there. And the players, are caught trying to decide on which side they're going to go with. And this also sets them up to set a pretty good power base for themselves What if they want to control the city? You know, that kind of thing. That's kind of my idea for if I ever get back into it. And I think it sounds pretty good. Columbus is a pretty neat place. So one of my friends said, "Why would you base it in Columbus?" And I told him that idea, and he said that actually can work, and it's something I've given some thought to. Another thing I've done is there's a game called Blood Dark Thirst, which is a vampire game, and it's pretty cool. I like the Blood Dark Thirst. And in one of the games I ran for it, the players, I made them start in a trailer park. And I let them decide on why they're in that trailer park. Are they hiding? Is that just where they lived when they returned? They get to decide on what the story is and why they're in that trailer park. But none of the players know that there are any other vampires in that trailer park. And what happened is some bodies started turning up, completely drained of blood. And they had to figure out what was going on, and before the police come in and figure out there's a vampire there. So this is how they wound up mating each other. And at first it was kind of a who did it, which one of you guys did it. But eventually they figured out none of them did it. And in the end, the way it worked out was there was actually a cultist slash serial killer in the trailer park, and he was killing the people and taking all their blood to use in some ritual. And I didn't get to the end of the whole thing because we ended it partway through, and before we come back and finish it, we never got back to it. But he was going to be bringing up, using this blood he's stolen to bring up a demon, and they were going to have to fight that. So there's another setting idea for you. And there's just so much you can do if you put your mind to it. And that's pretty much all I got at the moment. I wanted to put something together vampire-ish because life caught up with me again, and I wasn't able to get the video I wanted to put together. But hopefully this gives you some ideas of things you can do for your vampire game, whether it be Masquerade, Requiem, or Blood Dark Thirst, or any other vampire game that's out there. And there are a few others. So thank you for joining me for my rambling, and hopefully you'll join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.